All opposed? Okay. Now we have our first public hearing. I open the public hearing for the ordinance to approve funds and raise revenues for the fiscal year 25-26. And you have the information in front of you. Ms. Worley?
This is your fiscal year 25-26 budget message. In accordance with North Carolina General Statute 159, the Local Government and Fiscal Control Act, I'm pleased to present to you a balanced recommended budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. This budget has been assembled with the premises of ensuring that the budgeted funds are spent for public purposes in accordance with North Carolina Constitution Article 5, Section 2(1), which states that the power of taxation shall be exercised in a just and equitable manner for public purposes only and shall never be surrendered, suspended, or contracted away. The town's revenue forecasting philosophy has always been conservative and will continue to be for this fiscal year due to the ongoing uncertainty of local, state, and national economic trends. This budget document contains the recommended tax rate, revenue, and expenditures estimations and fee schedules. The proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget is $4,394,221. Anything can be added or deleted at the pleasure of the council. Budget needs and assessments were first discussed at the budget session, which was publicly noticed and held on March 20th, 2025, and in following sessions of the town council. A public hearing was set to be held for the budget on May 19th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. In 24-25, the town collected approximately $1,579,952 in property tax. Johnston County just performed a revaluation this year. The average increase from that revaluation across the county was 70%. Wilson's Mills is a rapidly growing town, and we are working to maintain the needs of the town infrastructure and services, along with keeping up with the additional influx of people and homes. The town of Wilson's Mills will collect an estimated $2,828,210 in the coming year, due in part by the revaluation, but also by additional tax revenue from homes added during our growth. Because of this, town administration does not recommend a revenue neutral tax rate. The town of Wilson's Mills would have a tax rate of 28 cents per 100 valuation at revenue neutral, which would cause the town to decrease its current services due to inflation on costs and services that are already in place. The average of all of the towns and counties' proposed tax rates in Johnston County is 50 cents. Therefore, the Wilson's Mills proposed tax rate totaling 50 cents continues to be average in the county and is the same rate as 24-25. I'll review the revenues for this year's proposed budget. The property tax base is estimated by Johnston County Tax Office to produce $2,828,210 in revenue, and that is based on a 99% collection rate. The prior year tax collection estimates are based on previous year's collections as well as discoveries and collection rates. We have an estimated collection of $600 for prior year's taxes. This amount is lower than the fiscal year 24-25 and is based on the excellent 99% collection rate. Penalties and interest are based on prior year collections and is estimated at $3,100. Vehicle tax estimates are based on the information from Johnston County Tax Office and remain the same as our current year at $208,000. The property tax, prior year collections, penalties and interest, and vehicle taxes generate approximately 55% of all general fund revenues. In shared state and local revenues, according to estimates from the North Carolina League of Municipalities, Wilson's Mills share of the Johnston County sales tax will generate about $725,000 or 18% of general fund revenues. Excuse me. Utility franchise taxes, which includes electric power, piped natural gas, cable television, and telecommunications taxes, are expected to generate $117,300 or 3% of the total general fund revenues. In addition to the sources of revenue discussed here, the town is also expected to realize a number of other revenues accounting for 22% of total general fund revenues, including collected fees. The town also expects to receive grants totaling $60,500 or 2% of the general fund. It is recommended that the fee schedule for the fiscal year 24-25 be continued by council to adhere to the anticipated budget revenue. However, staff is reviewing the current fees and will likely present this to council to increase those fees sometime during the fiscal year 25-26. Under general fund appropriation, there are no appropriated fund balance amounts estimated to be used for fiscal year 25-26. However, our leftover ARPA funds were designated last year to be used as revenue replacement. And since those funds have not been utilized in this fiscal year, we are estimating to use about $177,774. There's a typo there. $177,774 in fiscal year 25-26. Expenditures. Following it. Turn her mic off. The following expenditures have been appropriated in relation to our revenues. General government, $678,990. Administration, $617,742. Police, $2,151,212. Public Works, $551,366. Planning, $292,911. Parks and Events, $102,000. And that totals $4,394,221. As for staff, the budget reflects the following new positions and their respective departments. 5 full-time police officers starting in July of 2025. 1 new full-time SRO starting in April of 2026. A new pre-hire program for BLET cadets, which is budgeted 2 for fiscal year 25-26. And 1 full-time human resources director in administration. As for salary, this budget includes a tiered salary grade adjustment for all departments based on a 12.5% increase to bring the starting salary of police officers to the average of $51,650 in Johnston County. Benefits, the town has moved its health and life benefits to the Lehman Group broker with Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina and Delta coverages. The rates for the new companies remain the same as our current year. So no increases there. The town council reviewed the proposed budget in 3 work sessions where changes in revenues and expenditures were directed. The financial investments identified in the budget are designed to address the following town council goals: administration personnel, public safety personnel, salary adjustments for recruitment and retention of all personnel, increased community events for parks and events, software to streamline work processes in both police and planning departments, equipment to increase production and lower rental fees in public works, and additional funds to continue the research of the town water and sewer infrastructure stability and future maintenance. This proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget was available at Town Hall for a minimum of 10 days and has been available since April 25th, 2025. And a public hearing was called for May 19th, 25 at 6:30 p.m. and has been published twice in the News and Observer, as well as notices published on the town's webpage and at Town Hall since April 25th. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the staff for their support in preparing this budget. Without their help, it would not have been possible to finish the budget. They have spent a great deal of time working to ensure the tax dollars of the citizens of Wilson's Mills are spent correctly. And additionally, I'd like to acknowledge the mayor and town council for their support and leadership throughout the work sessions held to develop this budget. So I have included at your place, the most updated one. And I'm gonna go back to my seat and go over that with you because that might work a little better.
Thank you for preparing this balanced budget and presenting it to us. Now, this is a public hearing, so anybody that wants to address the budget can come forward and sign in and state your name and address and give your input on what you want, and town council. If y'all have any questions for Leanna or anything about the budget that we haven't discussed, now's the time to do so.
I will review a couple of things on this latest spreadsheet that I gave you. We did receive a new scroll, so I updated the number for the property tax on the very first page. And then on all of the other pages, the items that are highlighted in yellow are the items that have changed since your last budget session. And the main thing about that is that we did receive our new state retirement rates. So the amount that we have to deduct and pay for state retirement for both general employees and police department increased. So those increases are in here. There were a couple of things that were decreased, but we did have to add the grant on the first page, which was not included in your last budget. So that 60,500 did add to the revenue as well. So right above that grant line is the revenue replacement line, which is now, as I said in the budget message, 177,774. And those are the totals to balance the budget for the coming year.
Does anyone have any questions? Any comments?
Yeah, I would just say that, what's next on our agenda here as far as this budget? Approval?
Yes.
I would just like to say that, and I was in the budget sessions, but, I missed one. But, you know, our tax base went up, quite substantially. If we look, I'm just, I'm still, and I'm not saying anything now that I didn't say in our budget sessions, but I'm just not comfortable with all the increase in this budget. I'm just not comfortable with it at this point. I know we talked about it. I was probably the most vocal one, but, I went back after we had some discussion before about not being able to talk about names and this sort of stuff, but you can.
You can't.
Council, you want to correct me on that?
No, you can't talk personnel names.
You can't talk about increases or decreases. You can talk about position.
Right. With name.
Without a name.
So, yeah, I went and done some research. It's all public record. And you can pull it up by name, title, whatever. And, our salaries, are around Smithfield, Clayton, maybe not Clayton, but Smithfield, Benson, and Selma. I'm just expressing this because it is public hearing. I'm just not for bringing in $1 and spending 95 cents. I just like to see us ride along and see what this economy is going to do, what income's going to do, and we can make an amendment if we have to down the road, like we do multiple times during the year anyway. We have to do those. That's just my 2 cents worth.
Mr. Brown, wasn't it you that wanted the adjustments to be made on the salaries?
But no, I've never asked for adjustments to be made. I wanted to see if everybody was gonna get the same
Okay,
percentage.
so if you increase,
But I never said that I was for that. But I wanted to see, make sure that somebody wasn't getting a 10% and somebody was getting a 12%.
right, so when we adjusted the salaries to accommodate the police officers, we had to adjust everybody else.
Well, that's what we kept saying in these budget sessions, and that's where I
See-
disagree with some on this council, is no, you don't have to. You know, we can go back to a report that we had 3 or 4 years ago, but you know, that's water under the bridge. But like I said, that's just my opinion. That's just me.
Anyone else have any comment?
Kind of back up what Mr. Brown has to say. That's a lot of money coming in. That's a lot of money people are having to pay out. My property taxes they doubled. Well, I come to find out, I'm getting assessed an acre and my property is only a little less than a quarter of an acre. So I'm paying double what I'm supposed to be anyway. And I've located about 30 to 40 properties in the town that are the exact same way, that I went to those folks and said, hey, you need to fill this out. So hopefully they will get charged properly from the county. That's going to take a little bit off their backs, but you're asking these people, and I said it before and I'll say it again, you're asking them to pay 50 cents on the 100. I know we can't do a revenue neutral budget, but you're doubling everybody's.
But
And a lot of people are not, you're running the citizens of Wilson's Mills that have been here for 30 years out. That's my opinion. I don't think we can do this budget at all. I know I didn't say a lot, but I wanted to set back. I wanted to see a revenue neutral budget. I didn't get it. I didn't see it.
you can't do that.
I didn't say you could do it.
It
I
would
want-
be nice.
I wanted to see it. I wanted to see what it looks like on paper compared to what we have now. We don't have it.
Okay.
So
Wasn't aware that you wanted to see an actual copy of it, but I do have the total for a revenue neutral budget. Again, would be a 28-cent tax rate. And the total deficit for that, removing all of the wish list items that were added this year, the new positions, the deficit with that would be $498,208. I've got a copy here. If anybody wants one, I'll be glad to send it to you. The deficit total, $498,208 would be the deficit, and that is at revenue neutral with all of the additional items that you added removed from the budget. So
How much would that be? How much is being removed?
All of your,
I'm talking. just
You mean
leaving it.
oh, you mean salary?
Approximate. No, I'm not asking you these.
Oh,
I would have to calculate that because that's 6 new positions and a lot of equipment in different departments.
Yeah.
So I took out,
Will it be-
everything
will
that
it be
was
close
added.
to $1 million?
oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, for sure. Just the new positions are around 580,000.
Just the position.
Just the
Yeah.
positions, not the equipment.
Is, uh, and, a little bit of an agreement with both him and, Randy. But I also know that we can't be revenue neutral, I don't think. I don't know whether we can, change things around to be, put that much on the people, you know. I thought when the evaluation came out, and I talked to people and they said the county would be revenue neutral if they could be. But I don't know what that situation is either.
When we met, the county is the only one who did not give a specific proposed amount. The email that I sent you Friday with all of the different tax
Yes.
rates for the towns, the county's the only one that did not give a specific amount. The only thing that they would say is that they could not go as low as revenue neutral, but the tax rate for the county would be lower than it is now.
How about, how many other municipalities are going to be less than what they were?
We are one of three that are staying the same as what we had last year.
Only three are staying the
Only
same.
three are staying.
But some of them are not moving very much, are they? Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, it depends. And the thing is you just do need to keep this in mind of the counties that are decreasing.
Towns.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are decreasing tax rates and increasing utility rates.
Increasing. what?
Increasing
Utility.
utility rates.
They're gonna go up on water and sewer.
We don't have the.
So in other words, they're not really, changing.
I
the-
mean, they're different funds and not to really get in the weeds, but most people have that have money in their general fund to move to an enterprise that they don't have to put in there if they decrease their taxes. And so we don't have the option of kind of juggling those funds around. We don't have utilities, so.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do yet, but I do understand. I mean, my taxes are probably going up, probably double. But I understand that I mean, it's gonna hit us hard. It's gonna hit me hard. But, I'm gonna have to think about it. Um, that's all I had to say.
I would just say that in my, and I'm, as y'all know, I'm a real simple person. But we talk about staff and I think this council has been, since I've been on it, and what I read before I got on it in previous minutes, has been very generous to our police officers, police department. Now, just so this council knows, if we add 5 more, we're gonna be at 18 police officers. The town of Selma is at 24. I don't know what Clayton is. They're way bigger. Now, we're gonna be about the same size police department as Selma, less 6. And they got quite a bit more area, more people. So it's not just the police officers, it's the other stuff. And we talked about in some of these budget sessions about needing this position and that position. You know, the more officers we have, the more support staff they're gonna have to have. I don't care what department it is. But one of my concerns is why can we not do something like a continuing resolution until we find out what the county is going to do? Because I specifically asked if we would know before we had to vote on this, what the county would be.
But can't-
We thought of course, we can't read their minds,
No.
but we thought we would know, but we don't.
No,
So,
they have made it very clear that they're not gonna have theirs until all the towns have already passed their budgets.
yeah, well, I'm not saying don't pass a budget, but you can always do a continuing resolution budget that'll get us through for 2 or 3 months.
No, you got to have a passed budget.
Can we not do a
No,
partial budget?
no,
In an emergency situation,
Put your
yeah,
mic
but I
on.
would not recommend.
Ryan,
No.
put your mic on.
There are some provisions for a temporary budget, but it's not recommended, and would probably run into some issues with the local government commission if you had to do that. So I would avoid that if possible.
it's a public hearing. State your name, address.
My name's Kenneth Jones. I live at 601 Swift Creek Road, Wilson Mills. My question is, have you done anything to see what your growth that you're gonna have coming in is gonna project you dollar wise?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
We don't know the numbers, but we have put that in place. Yes, sir. That is included in our figures in here.
But you don't know the numbers.
No, we don't. they've got it somewhere, but yes, they included that amount that were coming in.
I
Steve,
will, I will just say that when we were talking about raising the tax rate, that was one thing that I specifically asked about, is because we were gonna have a tax increase, a rate increase with.
that was last year.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we ought to have it by now from last year.
Oh, we do. The tax
I think
increase
that's
is
what
in there.
Kenny's asking for, the numbers.
No, he wants to know you want to know the houses that are coming in.
No, I don't, no, I noted there's a lot of houses coming in. I
Right.
understand that. But if you made a projection dollar wise with the ones that have already been approved that are coming in.
Yes, well, then that number was included, wasn't it? The tax rate, that's on our scrolls,
What's on the scroll is what's already
right?
being,
It doesn't include in what
it
will
doesn't
be
include
here
what's being.
6 months from now.
No.
Okay, but you have to remember that if the houses are built today, they don't go on the tax rate until next year.
Yeah, but that's gonna be something that you'll be able to collect on the following year.
Right, the
Yeah,
following year.
yeah.
But
Okay.
that's not gonna,
Not gonna help you this year.
right.
No, and when we done the tax increase, one of the things that Wendy worked on is the number of homes projected of what the revenue is. That's one of the reasons that I'm very vocal about this, is because based on what is here now that that we've never collected taxes on before, that are already occupied.
Yeah.
That generated, I'm sure, quite a bit, and I don't know the numbers. Sherry may know the numbers on that, or Wendy, I don't know, but that was one of the things that we looked at before passing that tax increase. So it did, yes, it did, but Kenny, you know as well as I do, we gotta have some commercial. You can't run a town off the residential.
Thing is, keep going and you're gonna keep piling on the residential people. After a while, you're gonna be out of it. You can't go so far. You got to have commercial to pick it up. And that's something that I wish we'd already had, but we don't. But we sure need to be working towards it in some fashion.
We are,
Okay?
we are. I will tell you that. I made this comment when we were at a budget session to start off with. Coming into town, we have a lot of people that are wanting services. You made the comment about the police department. Our area that our police officers have to cover is huge. And the way the police department is now, there are times when there's not but one officer on duty by themselves because they don't have the officers, because they can't take time off and the scheduling. We need the officers. We need the HR person. All the things that are in this budget are things that we need to provide the services that this town needs to move forward. If we get commercial, we wouldn't have the officers to cover. If we don't do what we need to do now so that next year we won't have to worry about this, we'll have I know Chief is never going to be satisfied with the officers he's got. He's always going to want more. So we're going to have to come to a point and say, okay, Chief, you're going to have to deal with it. But we need to put in place the services that our citizens need so we can move forward. Our utility department needs stuff. They need equipment. They can't do the work they need to do without the equipment. Our planning department needs the equipment that she needs to do zoning and stuff out in the field. Nothing in this budget is in excess. It is items that are needed. Do I want to spend this money? No. My taxes went up like everybody else's, and I've got 4 tracts of land. So I'm paying it through but I don't have a choice because I love the town of Wilson Mills and we need to move forward. We don't need to move backwards. That's my 4 cents worth. Anyone else?
Move on. I don't want anybody to think that I'm just picking out the police department. I mean, that's our biggest, and well, other than administration, I mean, it's the biggest department. But, and I said, I mentioned about the police department. But if you go through the other, and we'll just say, positions. I mean, our staff, and I was really surprised that how close we are in pay to other towns, and even exceeding, other towns. So, I mean, just stuff that I pulled up off the internet that I was a little surprised at, but, we can either put some money back and, and save a little bit, because you see, we got this amount of money coming in, we got the same amount of money going out, but, that's just what I'm thinking.
You have to have a balanced budget, and that's what it is. It's a balanced budget. That doesn't mean that all these line items are going to be used during the year, but you have to have a balanced budget. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a vote on the budget ordinance.
I make a motion, we approve the fiscal year 2026 budget as presented.
Have a motion?
I'm going to second.
Motion was made by Councilman McGowan, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Trippett. Any more discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, state your name if you're opposed. You don't have a vote, dear. Thank you. Okay. Our next public hearing is an ordinance to amend the zoning for Wilson Company LLC, partial 17K08026J. Ms. Wendy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This parcel was inadvertently zoned mixed use and single family residential 2 when the Unified Development Ordinance was adopted in December 2019. It should have been industrial due to the nature of the business that has been on the property since the early 1970s. When the rezone process began this time, there were 4 parcels, and during the process, they've recombined all 4 into one. I have gone through the old records and found the old zoning map. And it did cut the date off of this map. I apologize for that, but it is showing where it was zoned industrial at the time the new UDO was put in place. So it should have stayed industrial because of the business that was on it at that time. I also have a copy of the permitted uses chart out of the UDO so you can look at and see exactly what industrial would cover. On that map that is dated in 2017, that is showing what those parcels were zoned when the UDO process was originally started. When the process took place in December of 2019, the gentleman that was taking care of all of this for us should have left that as industrial instead of changing it. When he changed it, he actually created non-conforming in our town. This is absolutely no fault of the owner. All of this comes back down to an inadvertent error during the UDO process. The planning board has heard this same information, and their recommendation was for approval of the rezone and for it to be sent to town council for a vote. The town's planning department recommendation is for approval of the rezone back to industrial. So the town council action needed tonight is either make a motion to approve the rezone of 688 Main Street, parcel 17K 08026J from mixed use and single family residential to industrial, or to make a motion to deny the rezone of 688 Main Street, parcel ID 17K 08026J from mixed use and single family residential to industrial. Mr. Wilson, the owner of the property, could not be here tonight.
I'm sorry.
I can tell you, he asked me to pass along to you that they have no plans for any changes on that property at this time. And that is relaying a message from him. That's not my words.
Which Mr. Wilson?
Peter Wilson.
Was Peter mayor when this happened?
No,
Okay, all right. I thought he should have
No.
probably
No.
thought that.
No.
When you said, when you said, are you done? I'm sorry.
yes,
Okay. When you said, they combine all the parcels in, who is they?
Peter is training his son Harry
Mhm.
to take over some of the family business items, and that is one of the things that he was training him on. And so Harry did the majority of the paperwork for this. Once we discovered there was a problem and we contacted him, Harry is the one that I had more contact with to get what we needed to make this process happen.
Yeah, I'm just, I just want to make sure I understand it. So what what I've always known is the gas and oil company, where it is now. That, to me, that's one part, but you said they combined all parcels into one, so that tells, at some point it was separated out if they combine them together. So who is they that combine them together, and what did they bind together?
Okay, Harry and Peter Wilson are the ones that did the recombination to combine them together. And if you look at the map on the first page of this right here,
Mm-hmm.
you see the blue dotted lines
I
that
do.
are inside the red? That's what those parcels were. There's also been a change. There was, Mr. Kenny Jones and Mr. Wilson worked out a property exchange to try to fix some lines, straighten some things up, tidy it up a little bit. That's what that extra line is for. So they moved lines to straighten things out.
All right.
And then the ones to the right are the ones that were originally zoned mixed use. And the larger one in behind is the one that was zoned single family residential back in 2019.
Were all four in 2019 zoned the same?
Yes, sir. I brought that map. And that's also what I gave you. I gave you a copy of an excerpt from that map. I circled it in red where those parcels were. and that they're all colored the purple. And I also put the grid on the bottom so you would know that that color is industrial.
So technically, the mistake is on their part
Yes, sir.
and not the property owner's fault.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Wendy, how many folks are here tonight that you know of that are here because of this reclassification? Kenny Jones? Okay, could we hear, is it possible to hear from Mr. Jones as to what his reasons are to oppose this? Briefly, Kenny, if you please. No, I understand that. I'm just,
Okay, I pulled up the parcel that we're talking about, the 2.13 acres. And the parcel number I pulled up was 17K08026C. That came up residential. I lived in front of that parcel of land for 22 years. Jimbo Uzzle bought that land from Noble Thomason. He put a tower on it. That tower has been there 55 years. It's grown up now. Mr. Wilson called me and said, Mr. Jones, your building, my utility building, was over on him 8 feet. He wanted me to move my building. I said, well, I'll just buy the 8 feet. He said, no, I don't see the 8 feet. He said, what I don't do is swap some land. So his son approached me and he said that he wanted to swap me 20 feet at the front so he'd have an easement to that property. And I said, what are you going to do with it? He said, I'm in the landscaping business and I'm looking at putting my landscaping stuff back there. Well, landscaping does not require a zoning of industrial. And the property that you've got there that he's talking about at 2.13 acres has always been residential. If you'll go look at the fence, the permanent fence that Alec and Peter put up on it, subdivided that property out. Carl Jr. Parrish's garden was at the front. They bought it. They bought part of the west house that used to be behind it. That left them 40 feet between me and my grandmother's house. And that went all the way back to the corner. He didn't have no access to that property because of the way the property lines and him and Alec fenced it off. So to make a long story short, I've got 5 residential homes that back up to that property. Really, if we'd had planning and zoning in this town when the LP tanks came, which are about 200 feet in front of the Advent Christian Church, they would have never been put there because it's a hazard. And if you go and rezone this 2.13 acres that joins it, it's going to be a larger hazard there for the town. You're making it grow because when it started off, it was a community store. And now it's nothing but bulk storage. That's all it is. The store shut down. They bring in the gas at night and they bobtail it out during the daytime to customers. That's all it is.
Mr. Jones, if I could interrupt for one, it's me over here. Kenny up here. A question I have real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Is your objection to it the nature of the gas?
Yeah, the nature of the gas is a hazard.
Am I correct? Is it LP gas, liquefied
It's-
natural gas?
It's LP gas.
So I'm just throwing this out. If something should disastrously happen to the property as we see it right now where the gas is stored, even without the rezoning, just leave it as it is. If something disastrous should happen there, it would clear off Wilson's Mills off half the map, correct?
Part of it, yes, sir.
So by adding this other parcel to it, it just ensures that the whole town will be wiped as opposed to half. In other words, what I'm saying is it's a disaster either way, whether we allow it and he puts more bulk storage back there and something happens versus leaving it like it is. It's a disaster either way.
It's a disaster, but what you're doing is you're making it larger. If you rezone to 2.13 acres, he can go back there and he can put a storage facility of 30,000 gallons back there.
But if we deny, I mean, if we deny it and something happens to his LP gas as it's currently zoned and
You're gonna have a problem with it.
yeah,
that way.
it would make all of this rather like a moot point.
It would.
So
But-
whether it's a moot plus or just a moot point, right? You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I know that.
Okay,
The thing I'm getting at too is with it, if you rezone it to industrial, the houses that I got backing up to it with 5 houses, 5 different pieces of property, my value of my property is gonna come down. I don't think you'd want to sit on your back porch and grill a steak and be able to see LP gas tanks sitting behind your backyard.
is it seeing it? Is it the visual or
Yes,
is it?
sir.
What,
Yes,
what
sir.
if he were to say he would put up a vegetation buffer so you can't see it?
Well, I still think you got a problem with it, and it's still gonna depreciate my property. All the way around. My property, when it backs up over half of his property line.
Mayor and council, I would add to that, because this is a general rezoning, you cannot add conditions. There may be conditions in your UDO that would apply to this use that might provide buffering, but you cannot add them as part of this vote.
Well, the thing I read here, let me just read this to you. This is your industrial zoning, what you got when I pulled it up. It says, industrial zoning is to establish, to provide location for industrial use that due to the scale of the building and of the nature of the use cannot be integrated into the community. Used within the industrial district or buffered from adjacent uses. The dominant use in this district are manufacturing, warehouse storage, small scale manufacturing, and storage that is compatible with less intensive use should be located other than in a residential area or a mixed-use district. The industrial district is reserved for use which requires very large buildings and or large parking and loading facilities. That's petroleum, offloading, onloading. So what you're doing is, excuse me? Yeah, it's been on the main site that was Uzzle operated. No, but if you increase the zoning to the 2.13 acres, you're making it larger. That's what I'm saying. And you're backing it up in a residential district. And I don't think a residential district is where you need to put it. And the other thing you're asking people to do in this community is support your budget. And if I've got to support it and you're going to depreciate my property, that's a difference too. But I just think you're making a mistake if you go rezone it.
For you, Kenny. Kenny, I got a question for you. Now, you contradicted what Miss Oldham said. Miss Oldham said that in 2019, when the UDO was redone and the person did put it the wrong thing, that those 4 parcels at that time were the same. But now he's saying that in 2019, part of that parcel was residential.
I pulled it
Or
up.
before 2019. Did you pull up the parcels before 2019?
I pulled it up last week.
I'm talking about what they were zoned in 2019.
I didn't pull up that. But listen, I lived there for 22 years. If the rezoning was going to change, somebody should have sent me a letter. Don't you think so? And I contacted the planning board, and the planning board told me that they haven't even met on this.
Well, I have a little bit of a problem with the back part of it being rezoned. But the part where the tanks are now should be rezoned to what they originally were.
Yeah, that's industrial. You're not going to be able to change that.
Now, the only thing, if they're going to combine all that together, then my question is, we're going to have to vote on everything based upon it all together. And we can't take away the industrial for that part that's there with the tanks.
But according to the letter I got, that is already supposed to be zone mixed use.
That's what it's zoned now, isn't it?
Yeah, mixed use.
Yeah, but what was it zoned before 2019 when the UDO was
Before the UDO was adopted in December of 2019, all 4 parcels were zoned industrial. You all have a copy of that map, and this right here is what they're looking at, right here. This is the 4 parcels here. And that purple is,
Parcel number that I got, I pulled up 17K 08022.
it used to be 4 different parcels. They combined it all into one parcel, but what they combined into one parcel is that purple blob right there.
Cause that purple blob back here at the back was not
It
into
was-
the parcel at the front to start with.
It was in 2017, when this zoning map was printed, that was zoned industrial per Johnston County and Wilson's Mills.
I didn't ever get anything there, and I was still living there. They touched my property, so it looked like somebody.
Well, in
should've sent me out.
2019, we didn't have to send out individual letters. It was advertised that we were redoing the UDO and that the zoning classifications were being changed. That was advertised. That's what's required by law.
In 2019, if you did a large scale update of your zoning map, you would not have been required to send individual notices to property owners. It would have been, as you mentioned, just a newspaper publication or website publication with that. The entire town map, whether individual parcels changed or not, if you were doing a wide scale update. So I think what the plan, if I understand the planning director correctly, really what you're doing is, I guess you can call it a rezoning, but it's really a correction of an inadvertent mistake that was made by the consultant preparing the zoning map. The property was never requested by the property owner to be rezoned or intended to be rezoned by the town.
Well, let me ask you, what did it have to be zoned to put a tower on it? That's what's on it right now.
I can't speak historically for the property, sir. I apologize.
Whatever the zoning was for the tower, that's what it was when it was put up. So I don't know when it was changed, cause I didn't get anything about changing it, and I lived there 22 years.
It's possible if that is an older tower, that tower predates adoption of a zoning ordinance for the area. Probably predates zoning ordinance.
I still think it needs to stay mixed use rather than go back and expand it. So that's my, I think that if you expand it, you're gonna have some liability with it down the road.
So Wendy, I'm still trying to process here because I know what I've seen all my life, but that's irrelevant to what's on paper. So you're telling me that at one point there was 4, this purple area kind of looks like a Tetris thing when you're
Mhm.
playing Tetris. But, all, those were originally 4 properties.
Yeah,
And Peter and Harry decided instead of having 4 properties, they were just gonna combine it into one property
yeah.
prior to coming to you. They had combined it prior to coming to you.
When they came to me about the recombination is when we discovered that they had been inadvertently zoned.
Yeah, here's what I'm trying to, if I take just what the property is, just what the propane company's on right now,
Mm-hmm.
the cleared area,
Mhm.
let's say that's parcel 1. 2, 3, and 4, let's say it's the wooded area that I'm looking at on my note, on my thing. So you're telling me that parcel 1, yeah, I can see where we would have to rezone that to make it compliant. But you're telling me that 2, 3, and 4 that are in wooded area was originally zoned the same industrial and not residential. It wasn't
Yes.
mixed use,
No,
even though it was 3 separate other properties.
right.
So they were all of them were commercial,
Industrial.
industrial.
Yeah.
And just to make sure, industrial, if I understand it, you can put anything and everything you want to on there, correct?
Well, you have the permitted uses chart in front of you that
Correct.
tells you what can and
Right,
can't be put
that's-
on industrial.
Yeah.
I interject something on the 4 parcels.
Yes.
Parcel number 1, and I've got it pulled up here. It was where the original oil company was at. Uzzell Oil Company. The parcel that is labeled beside that, and I think it's labeled 1, was Carl Junior Parrish's garden. Okay, number 3 was the parcel back behind it where the fire department used to park its truck before we ever built a building to put it in. This little piece over here on the side is parcel number 4. That's where the West House used to be, right beside my grandmother's. That was bought by Mr. Uzzell and ended up, when Mr. Uzzell sold out to the Wilsons, that was part of parcel 4. This parcel back here is entirely different from that right there, from that parcel. It doesn't even, it joins it, but it comes to the back of it. Because from my grandmother's door, Mr. Uzzell sold my daddy 6 feet. So my grandmother's relatives could park the car on the piece of property. And then when I built that building over there, I asked Mr. Wilson about it, both of them, Alec and Jim, because at that time I worked with them for 2 years. I said, you want to sell me the 6 feet, so I moved the building over some. He said, land's not worth a flip. Let's go ahead and put your building there. That was my mistake. That was my mistake. So I put the building there. But that property is separate from this property back here. It's always been separate.
But they were zoned the same even when they were separate parcels.
I would just caution us, we have had discrepancies with county maps before among this council, and so are we 100% positive?
Yes. Because I found the map and I also called GIS and asked my contact over there to double check it because I can't see what past zoning was. When you pull up GIS, you can only see what the zoning is right now. You can't go back in time to see what it used to be, but GIS they can see that. Yes. You have to be present at the planning board meetings to have input into what the planning board does. Again, you have to be present at the planning board meetings to be able to have input into what the planning board takes action on. Yes.
Question. You're saying that Peter and Peter's son is saying that right now there is no plans to do anything to this land other than what it is sitting at right now, not clearing it, not doing anything. My question is when and if they decide to do something, is there certain things that you can ask them to do?
And,
If it's zoned industrial, unless it requires a special use permit. Now, if it requires a special use permit, yes, they would have to come back to us.
Would one of
Correct,
those-
Mr. Pridgeton?
that is correct. And I just also remind council that for the purposes of a rezoning, you have to consider not just the current use, but any allowable use in that particular zoning district.
So if they decide to add, let's say, another tower, another one, would that be a special use permit?
It would depend on what kind of tower it
I'm saying
was.
like the ones they got now where they got the LP tank.
The one that's up there now doesn't require a special use permit. If they were to go much larger than that, they would have to.
If they put in one of those big tanks, would they have to have a special use permit for that?
On the new parcel,
Yes.
Mr. Pridgeton, that would be a question for you. If they decided to put another distribution tank on the new parcel, not the new parcel, but that back parcel, would they need a special use permit to place that tank back there since it's new, even though it's zoned industrial? Because our petroleum does require special use permits.
Do they have an existing special use permit for the site?
No, it was established prior to special use permits and zoning coming into play for the town.
It's hard for me to say without looking at your ordinance. I think it is possible that you could require them to have a special use permit since it
Okay.
would be an expansion. I can't say that with certainty. I'd have to review your ordinance, but that is a possibility.
Okay. I have the larger map, if anyone would like to see it. That may bring the conglomeration more into focus for you.
So
Here, I'll turn mine.
I have a problem, because of where it's located, with more tanks being put there. I have a problem with the way it looks, period, because it looks like a junk yard to start off with. So I have a problem with this rezoning. I know we need to correct it somehow. I know we need to put it, and if we correct it, it's gonna be the whole tract because they've combined it together. And we need to put it industrial because it needs to be corrected, but I have a problem with that backtrack being industrial. But I don't see any other way to do it now that they've combined all four of them.
well, let me just say this, Mayor. I think it might have been a little more courteous before they had to combine the tracks to get with our planning folks. So with that said, and you're right, it does look bad. But I'm looking at it more from a life safety point of view. You know, hindsight's always 20/20. And we didn't know then what we know now, but we've approved a lot of residents around that area. So I don't know that I could agree to rezone this because of a life safety issue with LP storage, as many homes as we've put in, just on what's there. Now, I can't ask what they're gonna put there or speculate that, Counselor, I know that. But based on what's there, I just don't know that I can vote to rezone this based on, the safety issues of it.
But we're not really voting to rezone it. We are voting to correct our UDO. It is an error in our UDO.
Now, I stand by my words.
I know, and that's where I'm having the problem because we need to correct it.
And as council, we have that right
Yes,
to yea or nay it.
but I ask this question, Wendy, if we do not approve this and we keep the UDO as it is, this is going to be a non-conforming, right? And it would mean that he could not expand it or anything. Is this correct?
It would be a non-conforming use. He would not be able to expand it. And if the use ceased for, I'm not sure what your ordinance requires, probably 120, 180 days,
It would not be
he
able to
would
go back.
lose that use as well.
Let's see, 10, Main, 7/10 off the road on Main Street. Should have done this earlier. Okay. Okay, we have property that adjoins that also, and I am concerned about the devaluation, same as Kenny. And I do have a question. Wilson Earl's big building over there, is that industrial or commercial? What is that? The truck depot. Well, you know what that looks like. Okay, that should be enough right there. So, no, I object to it.
Count,
Is there anyone that's here who is for the rezoning? I'd sure love to hear from somebody if they're here. Okay,
Counselor, what are the odds we're looking at a lawsuit if we don't do this? That's tough to say, I know, but I just like your off the record opinion. Very well, 'cause I know I pretty much, I can read between the lines on that.
My,
Yeah, your turn, you go ahead.
Options this evening, you could vote for it, you could vote against it. I suppose they could send it back to the planning board and staff for further review. I'm not sure if that would move the needle, but if there's any additional consideration to be given, I suppose that would be an option, but I'm not sure that it would
It could go,
resolve the matter.
yeah, it could go either way. I'm not sure sending it back to planning board would help it any. We can't put conditions on it, so there's really nothing more that the planning board could change.
Would it be important for the board to know the answer to the special use permit requirement that we discussed earlier?
Piece of property like this carry two zonings, a zoning for the front and a zoning for the back? I've seen it. I've seen property zoned that way,
You
commercial.
do see it, but I think the law, if I remember correctly, the law has changed that you can't do that now. But you do see some historically that have ended up that way.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can, from this point forward, zone something two different uses.
Even though that they weren't combined to start with.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
I look at the whole thing very simply. A mistake was made and the owner wants it rectified. And it was not the fault of the owner where the mistake was made. We can throw a lot of different things in there, whether they're storing LP gas or used cars, it doesn't matter. As far as the appearance goes, I understand, ma'am, and I fully sympathize with you talking about the street appearance. But I just think it's a basic issue. We made somebody in the past administrations made a mistake. It's got to be fixed.
So if he would, I'm sorry, y'all, when that one's on, this one acts up. If he were to add addition, then that would have to come before us for a special use permit? If that's the case, then I don't mind correcting the zoning, because that means if he put any facilities back there, the council would have to approve it. Is that what it would mean?
Yes, ma'am. I believe that is correct. And for a special use permit, in addition to whatever specific requirements you have in your UDO for that type of business, you would have to look at life safety issues, impact on property values, impact on traffic, et cetera.
question, Wendy. Are the Wilsons absolutely, positively, set on combining all of these into one property? Yeah, but I mean, could they divide them again?
They could divide them again, but I did just find an answer to the special use question in our UDO. Even though it may be zoned industrial, if they decide to put anything petroleum on that other property, it has to come back as a special use permit. They could not do it without it coming before the council and the council approving it.
but then once it comes back to this council for a special use permit, then we're probably gonna be told, well, it's in the UDO now, so you got to prove it. If they've crossed Ts and dotted Is, I mean,
Special use permits are more at the discretion of the council.
Yes, sir. You can add conditions to special use permits as long as they're agreed to by the applicant. But in a certain sense, yes, Councilman Brown, you're correct that if they meet the criteria of your UDO and apply for the special use permit, you have to approve it. Unless you make those findings that I mentioned earlier, that if there's substantial evidence provided that it is a true life safety issue, you may be able to deny it. So, but it would be a different review process to expand that business use.
And if it were to go back to a special use permit, the contiguous landowners would be notified that there was a special use permit hearing coming up, so they would have the opportunity to come like they have tonight to voice their opinions and concerns.
Okay, I'll just say my last little piece. I'm, I'm, I'm conflicted with the back part, but we have to correct the front part there. But since we've got to correct the front part and the back part's been put with it, I don't see any way that we can't do it. Thank goodness we're going to be able to, if they decide they want to do something, thank goodness they're going to have to come back to us for a special use permit. You know, I'm not happy with what I'm going to have to do, but with the idea that we can make it where they have to come back to us, and I'm totally against putting more tanks out there. Totally, I would never vote for that unless I was forced to. But in terms of making it the way it should be, I'm going to have to vote yes. So I'm going to make a motion.
before you close the public hearing, it's not just LP. And now that could be a battery distribution plant. It could be a battery assembling plant. It can be a cyanide, whatever. I mean, it can be any multiples of things. Now they'd have to do a special use probably, but still, I mean, we got to make sure that, well, I mean, I got to make sure that it's not just limited to what's there now. It's what's there now because that's what we see every day. But it could be any number of these things in this list.
That is correct.
But that's not what I'm gonna base my vote on there, council.
That they would have to, I think, eliminate the current use to do that. They couldn't have two different uses. Now that they've combined it as one parcel, you couldn't have an LP business and a battery factory or anything. So, they would have to completely revamp what they're doing out there.
Okay, you got that one off. Okay. Any more discussion? Any more comments? Okay, I'm closing the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we approve the rezoning to industrial for that. I don't have the number. Parcel 17K08026J.
That motion could also include the proposed rezoning is reasonable and consistent.
And the
with-
rezoning is reasonable and
So, with-
consistent with the
future-
UDO.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we have a motion. Councilman Trippett made the motion, Councilman Jernigan seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Our third public hearing is an ordinance to extend the corporate limits for Strickland Road Developments LLC partial ID 17J070228. And this is the partial on Strickland Road. Anyone wishing, I'm opening the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak? Wendy, do you have any comments on this? Okay. State your name and your address.
Good evening. My name is Rob Bailey, R&R Development Group, 1611 Jones Franklin Road. I'm the applicant, and thanks for your consideration this evening. If y'all have any questions for me, I'm here available.
One question. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with these mics tonight, but they're sure not together. Okay, the last time we were looking at this, y'all were looking at putting an entrance on Swift Creek Road. Is that still part of the plan?
Yes, ma'am. We worked out the details. We actually already have our driveway permit,
Okay.
so we have a connection on Swift Creek Road as well. That'll be the main entrance, and then we also
Okay,
have
is that going to require a turn lane?
yes, ma'am.
And that's going to be right there in that valley? Or right across from the wildlife pond somewhere?
Yeah, we're putting some guardrails up at that stream crossing.
Right?
And then we have a decel lane and a left turn lane and a decel lane going in.
So you're going to have a lane for both ways is what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Because that was a concern because it's down in a valley hill on both sides.
Yes, and that was one of the reasons we're having to widen the taper a little bit at that culvert.
Okay.
And so DOT is requiring us to put in
Turn lane.
a safety rail.
Right,
through there.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, when you're coming from the airport down Swift Creek Road, and I'm getting ready to go down the hill, y'all cut a path in there. Or there is a path in there. I don't know if you guys cut it or not.
We did do some drilling for some rock, but I was out there earlier. There's a power line that goes through there,
Correct.
so that may be what you're looking at.
Well, no, this is freshly cut.
Okay.
Yeah, it's,
It-
so,
yeah.
so tell, Wendy, you might be able to help me on this, understand this. Is that about where his driveway he's talking about is gonna come out? I'm gonna tell you, and I know you want to develop it. People gonna die there. When you come over that hill, you can't see anything. You can have 14 deceleration and acceleration lanes, and I know when I brought this up last time, DOT approved it. But they approved it about like they approved traffic counts with just their toes. Some people's gonna die there, coming in and out of their home. Because you cannot see coming over that hill, going down that hill. When you go up the hill, I have enough harder time coming out of my street, because when you come up the hill, you can't see anybody coming up the hill. I'll say it again. It was not well thought out, not by you guys. DOT has to approve that. We've gone back and forth, and I've been very vocal about DOT. But it just, I know that it's not going to be a safe place.
You gonna have an entrance on Strickland Road,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
or are you gonna just have one?
that's correct. We have the two access points, and we have some stub streets for future connection to the northwest. Or maybe it's northeast.
Stan, I'm not saying you guys, I just can't, I don't know why DOT didn't think it through, because you guys are developed. I mean, you're developed. But I just, I don't know why DOT would approve something like something like that. I just don't get it.
We are, and I get the point, you're more concerned about somebody coming out and taking a left, coming back towards town than you are necessarily somebody pulling over to take a left in the neighborhood.
Yeah, 'cause they're not getting to-
When they come over the hill, coming from the airport, they're gonna probably get in a turning lane to turn left into the subdivision. So when they turn left to get into that subdivision, now if somebody's coming out, their view is obscured already by a hill and now by a car. But that, I'm just thinking this and saying the same thing that I said when it come before this council before. It's just, it's going, people are gonna die going and coming from home.
Well,
With that hill.
there's another in and out, so they'll probably use the one on Strickland Road.
Well, but the main one's gonna be on Swift Creek. I mean, down the street from Strickland. They got one, they got two. But they got a gate that says emergency use only, or they did have the gate across there. So it's not a real entrance and exit.
This will be on this, because it's gonna be.
Will it?
Yeah,
Will that one on Strickland Road be just like the one on Swift Creek Road?
It-
Or will it just be a street because you gotta have two? An
The-
entrance and an exit?
Well, the street, the connection that we're building is gonna be, built the exact same. But we're not required to put any turn lanes in Strickland Road.
but it's gonna be an in and out, so if I were living there, that's where I would go in and out. I wouldn't go to.
Yeah, but,
It'll be a full service, entrance.
yeah, but just remember,
Yeah, I know.
the main entrance has to have turning lanes. Down the road from down Strickland Road, they had to put in turning lanes. That's not a entrance and an exit.
Yeah.
The mailboxes are gonna be closer to the entrance and exit, and probably everything else in the development, so that's not gonna be, unless people just decide to use it, and then I don't know.
Well, something I can, offer up, is now that it's incorporated into the town limits, we could, discuss, a speed reduction through there. And, that's something, if I had support from the town, I would need as well, but I could work on trying to get get the speed reduced.
Yeah.
It goes through DOT, I'm probably gonna say absolutely not, let's raise it to 55.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Do you have any more questions for him? Any more comments? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to comment? Wendy, do you have anything that you need to, okay? Have any more questions? Okay, I close the public hearing and ask for a vote on a motion. Sorry, yeah, I'm supposed to ask for a motion.
Make a motion that we extend the corporate limits Strickland Road Developers LLC, parcel ID 17J070228.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Trippett, seconded by Councilman Jernigan. Anybody else have any more questions? All in favor? All opposed? At this time, I'm going to open the first open forum. Anyone wishing to speak with council, please come forward, state your name, address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. No one wishing to come forward. I close the open forum at 7:58. Council, I'm going to ask for a brief recess. We will come back in about 5 minutes. I had to have a break, and so I'm, okay. We're at regular business. My comments. Leanna and I attended the League of Municipality Conference, and I will tell you this, I had some very, very good sessions. Learned some things that some of the other municipalities are doing as far as zoning is concerned, that if it comes to Wilson Mills, y'all will be standing on your head. They're trying to change zoning and planning, and it's not good. So we need the resolution that we passed, we need to be sure that Wendy stays on top of what the legislature is doing so that we will know where we stand as far as our UDO is concerned. Because if some of the things that the General Assembly are trying to pass goes through, we will have to revamp our whole planning department. Yes, you can. Give us an update if you have one. I'll cut my mic.
I did look on the website that I keep a check on each day, and I checked it late this afternoon. In order for the bills to actually get to a point of vote, they have to go from Senate to House or House to Senate. And we only have one that has done that so far, and it's not 765 that we were so worried about. That one got kicked back to one of the committees. I didn't have a chance to read why, but it didn't move forward. The one that did get pushed through is the one doing away with ETJs. So we need to make sure we keep an eye on that as well. But that's the only one that has crossed both of them that could potentially come up for a vote.
And for you, the doing away with ETJs, would that mean that all ETJs would be gone?
Yes,
No
ma'am.
matter? Okay.
And that's the one that's made crossover and they're going to vote?
That's the one that's already crossed over that is more likely to go for a vote at
And,
this
and,
point.
and I think she's right. I think because the ETJ, just think about in just Johnston, just what we've discussed in this council, that is very likely to be a pushing factor for them to pass. So that's the reason that Wendy, from my point of view, and I can't speak for nobody else, you need to be very, very aggressive on expansion so that we can stop growth like I've been from crossing over, like I've been talking about for years since I've been on this thing. We have to be aggressive. So anywhere sliver you see, it's that wide. Let's learn from our neighbors and
Yes,
do
sir.
something.
Is our
Okay.
senator for this or against it?
I didn't look that far. I didn't have enough time to look that far this afternoon. I just saw that it had moved over.
To further my comments, the mayors have a meeting this month too, reviewing some stuff with the county on the sewer and water infrastructure stuff that we've been talking about. And I will keep y'all informed on how that moves forward. Leanna and I are going to a awards ceremony for the Triangle East Chamber of Commerce next week. So we will update you on that, on what's going on with the chamber. The chamber did come and make a presentation to Leanna and I, and we'll get that information to you by next meeting, or probably at the work session. Yeah, I think that's where we said we're going to do that. So I am trying to stay up on everything and do the best I can with there's a lot going on in the county, and there's a lot going on that we need to stay up on. So Wendy, thank you for your help on that. And that's all I have. So it's Leanna.
The first item under town administrator is to call a public hearing for annexation of this parcel, and it's in your packet, the petition and a map showing where this parcel is located. This is just a call for the public hearing next month. The first item is to adopt the resolution which directs the clerk to investigate this petition. So I need a, motion and approval of that.
Moved.
Motion made by Councilman Jernigan, second by Councilwoman Dobbin to approve the resolution directing the clerk to investigate petition of annexation of CCF Gordon Road LLC, partial ID 05105021E. Any questions? All in favor?
And then directly behind that, you've got the certificate of sufficiency, so the petition was signed by the owners, which is the president and secretary of CCF Gordon Road LLC. And so next would be the resolution to call the public hearing for next month's meeting on June 16th.
Second.
Motion made to, call a public hearing on the annexation of CCF Gordon Road LLC, partial ID 05105021E. Motion made by Councilman Brown, seconded by Councilman Jernigan. All in favor? Okay. I didn't put the date. Public hearing will be June the 16th, 2025.
And not on the agenda, but a couple of updates from different projects going on. The dog park is well underway. The new fence looks fantastic. The mulch is going to be delivered the end of this week. Is that correct, Wendy? Is that what you told me earlier? End of this week? Did he call? The mulch. Tomorrow. Okay. Even better.
Let's see them.
And then the gates were put on, but the dogs can't go in there yet until the mulch is down, but the fence looks fantastic.
Yes, it
I
does.
think
I-
it looks great. Yeah. And they did pour the front area, which will allow the dog park to be ADA accessible. The parking lot is going in. They should have all of that finished by the end of next week. And, excuse me, they also poured concrete pads on each side of the shelter for, chalk drawings, because we have had an issue with kids drawing with chalk underneath the shelter, and then it's very hard for that to wash off because the rain doesn't get to it and then it has to be cleaned. So these are outside of the shelter, and Public Works is also building some little houses by the concrete pad that will hold the chalk and different stuff they do for sidewalk chalk. I'm not really sure, but we've actually had some donations for that already from some people in town, so.
On the dog park, do we have any idea of the grand opening and dedication and associated signage?
The sign is being bid out right now, so as soon as we know when we could get a sign installed, because I don't want to do the dedication until the sign is up. So we're hoping that it'll probably be in the dog heat middle of the summer, but we'll make it short.
What kind of sign are we putting up?
It's gonna be a lot like the sign that's at the police department right now.
Okay.
And it'll be in front of, or right there by the corner of the fence. So as you come in or when you're going down the road, you should be able to see the sign. As far as the crossroads of Fire Department Road and Wilson's Mills Road, we have tried a couple of times to contact the new owner of JD's. I don't know if all of you knew that it had been sold.
Can you
So-
elaborate on that afterwards when you're done with your topic? I don't know
Elaborate
who
on-
bought it and what else they own.
It's a corporation that is based in Goldsboro. I cannot pronounce the owner's name. And the corporation, I don't have it with me, but DOT, our DOT representative is actually from the city of Goldsboro and is familiar with this corporation. So that she is contacting them to talk to them about what plans they have for that intersection. And right now, oh, go ahead.
Did not the owners of JD's Strickland, do they also own the Mexican restaurant and the car lot on the other corners, the opposing corners?
The corner with the Mexican restaurant they purchased that from them before all of this.
Okay, okay.
they-
So
they do
JDs
own
is
it.
strictly JDs.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know what they did about transferring any of their other property over there.
And the property on the other corner, which is the car lot, is owned by the Wilsons. It's owned by Alec
Okay.
Wilson. It's not owned by Sutherland.
So what DOT is looking at right now is a median across the long entrance to JD's, so that people just aren't coming out willy-nilly. And then, so that would create an absolute T intersection. And then either, they are looking at either a signal or a three-way stop. More than likely, it will be a three-way stop. But they're also, I'm sorry.
How can you have a three-way stop for the school there?
That's what they're talking with the principal too about the traffic control here at the school so that it doesn't back up into that three-way stop sign area. My suggestion to them was to look more favorably on a stoplight because a
Yes.
stoplight would allow traffic to stop and start at some point rather than it being a three-way stop where it's backed up around
And
the corner.
That's not,
The main reason that they're contacting the new owners and that they wanted us to talk to the owners of that property was because of the median that would go across. Now, it's all gonna be in DOT right away, but they're just not really in favor of going in and doing that without at least talking with the property owner first, so. But I'll keep you updated on what they find out about that. And the last thing, good news, starting work on the renovations at Town Hall next Tuesday morning. And we got a schedule from them, from the contractor, and right now they are slated to be doing some final inspections on that by November.
Okay.
Hopefully we can have our Christmas council meeting in our new chambers. Don't hold me to that. I have no control over it.
that sounds good though.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Okay, councilman comments. Anyone have anything they want to say?
I was just gonna ask Leanne if she had heard back from DOT on the interchange, Swift Creek and I-42 interchange lighting. They were supposed to do it
Not
to
since
kind
the
of
last
traffic
meeting,
count.
and I had forgotten about the interchange of Wilson's Mills Road and Fire Department Road, so that's what I focused on since the last meeting, so. But where we left that was that we needed to find out from them where they got their information about the traffic study. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you said they were gonna do a traffic study. I mean, but
Well, they did one already, but I think what you had
Well,
asked was
another
where
one,
they
though.
got
yeah,
that information.
yeah, but that's probably, I'm sure that's old. That's when they've been working on it, I think 5 years. It's probably one they're going by.
So what they did the last time when they gave us those traffic counts that I presented to you last time was they have to do an estimation, I guess, of what they think it's going to be in the next 10, 15, 20 years. I don't have the file with me.
Well,
Well,
when
you
they
were
do
asking
that, do
about-
they talk to you? Do they talk to Wendy, or they just come up with some arbitrary number and formula?
That was
An
the
arbitrary number
question.
formula.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the question
yeah.
that we have, is where they get that information.
Well, it
from.
just looks like to me it'd be simple. What do you have in this area coming in? We know, y'all know.
I can tell you that they're gonna have an answer for us because they don't want to pay $1 million for those lights either. Because it's gonna be
Just,
$975,000 to light that area the way we're asking them to light it.
well,
So,
there's intersections on interstates that don't have half the traffic that this one has, that I've been
Right.
making notes on. So if they come back and say that there's not enough traffic, I'm gonna be mighty disappointed.
well, that is for them to pay for it. Now, remember when I presented the information to you last time, I gave you a picture of what the intersections were in Sanford, and the city of Sanford, city, town, whatever they are, paid for those. And we can talk with Duke Energy about lighting those ourselves, but we have to pay for them. They won't be the $1 million
Interstate.
that, yeah.
It won't be the interstate line.
I mean, it won't be much less than that, but it's gonna be, I mean, we'd have to talk with Duke Energy about how much lighting like that would be, and it would light the area, but it's not gonna be like the interstate lighting that you see going through Charlotte on I-85, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I can find out where they get that information from, and then I can also get some pricing from Duke Energy, because that's where we'd have to go through them to do it.
I'm not interested in us paying for it. I mean, the intersections that the interchanges that I've seen, there's not a town around to pay for it. So,
There's not a what?
a town around to pay for it, so they had to fund it through the federal grant or whatever it is, but, you know, just whatever, I mean.
Any other questions for me? Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
Anybody else has a comment? No comments? Okay, I open our second open forum at 8:21. No one wishing to come forward. I close it at 8:22. Do I hear a motion that we,
Three, 318.6 or something.
can we just stay where we are? Do we cut off the camera?